this evening. We're really excited about this program. As prostate cancer continues to claim lives disproportionately when it comes to men of color. But at an HBCU in the heart of Atlanta, groundbreaking research is shifting the narrative. And in this episode of If You Are My Brothers podcast, we chat with Dr. Jaideep, I'm sorry, Chaudhary. He is the executive director of the Center for Cancer Research and Therapeutic Development at Clark Atlanta University. And this is our Black History Month series. And during the series, we're going to be highlighting the advances in prostate cancer research, the ongoing legacy of finding a cure, and the leadership necessary to drive these efforts. So without further ado.
So we have a confirmation with a second opinion that he definitely has prostate cancer.
Welcome to the If You Are My Brothers podcast, a podcast created to break the silence around prostate cancer. It is a conversation, and I'm Reggie Hicks, your host. And welcome to everyone watching on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn Live. And to those listening later on your favorite podcast platforms, we say thank you for tuning in and thank you for sharing and liking this podcast. Before we begin, a quick reminder that this podcast is not a substitute for your medical team. Some conversations may be of an adult nature, and so we want to make sure you realize that and listen accordingly, and always consult your healthcare provider regarding your personal health care decisions. Now, to learn more about this podcast and the If You Are My Brothers documentary and community engagement project, you can visit our website at ifyouaremybrothers.org. That's If You Are My Brothers, all one word, .org. You see it there on the screen. Thank you, Danny. In the meantime, we ask you to join the conversation this evening. And you can do that in the chat. You can ask questions. You can share comments. We always want to remind you this is real life. So whenever we talk, it's not a presentation. It is a conversation. So we want you to engage with us. Now, our guest this evening is Dr. Jaideep. I got it right this time, Doc. Chaudhary. And Dr. Chaudhary is a full professor and executive director of the Center for Cancer Research and Therapeutic Development. I could say that backwards. I've known the organization and the individuals there for a number of years. This is the first time that Dr. Chaudhary and I will have a chance to talk, and looking forward to talking with him and speaking with him about the wonderful things they're doing at CCRTD, which is at Clark Atlanta University. And it's one of the nation's leading prostate cancer research centers. He is a distinguished cancer biologist. He has authored more than 60 peer-reviewed publications. He holds 3 patents and has secured major research funding for the institutions he's been involved of, including CCRTD. His work focuses on the molecular basis of prostate cancer and health disparities. He has mentored over 17 PhD students, like from them starting to getting that PhD at the end of their name. And as a higher education leader, he promotes impactful research, collaboration across academic disciplines, faculty diversity, and resources for student and faculty success. So, Dr. Chaudhary, it's good to have you here with us. Thank you for joining us this evening.
Thank you, Reggie. Thank you, Reggie. It's an honor and pleasure to be sitting next to you and having a conversation.
Yeah, I have to say, first of all, I want to apologize. I know we talked about this sort of in our preliminary session before we got started, but your thumbnail in our YouTube was a little enhanced thanks to AI. It gave you an AI makeover, so I want to apologize. Your staff was calling me. He's like, "That's not him. That's not him." I was like, "That's the picture. That's the picture." But AI decided they wanted to give you a makeover. interestingly enough, when I put the other picture in, it decided to give me a makeover. So I was like, oh, okay, here we go.
Okay.
Uh,
as
so
long as we have a conversation, that's what matters. Picture
that's
doesn't
what
matter.
matters the most, right? And speaking of that, I want to get your perspective on AI too, as we kind of
Yeah.
talk about the
Mm.
future. Um, Dr. Chaudhary, for listeners who may not know about CCRTD, and as I mentioned, I've known and been involved with the organization over the many years. What is its mission, and why is it located at Clark Atlanta University? Why is that so significant?
First of all, Reggie, thank you for asking that question. But before I start, I want to thank you to invite me in this podcast, and I want to thank all the listeners who are here, who are joining us. And I think this is a great opportunity for both of us to spread the message on prostate cancer, especially for the Center for Cancer Research and Therapeutic Development, to let people know who we are, what we do, and why we are there. I mean, that's your first question. So, one of the biggest, when we started this cancer center way back in 2004, we existed before that, but we were focused on almost every other cancer that the faculty was involved in.
Mhm.
In 2004, we specifically chose to focus on prostate cancer, and the reasons were multiple reasons for that. One is that prostate cancer has significant health disparities, means it affects at least twice more African American men, both in terms of mortality and incidence, approximately, and we don't know why, right? that
Mhm.
was that was that was one of the biggest focus of what we really wanted to start at that time, and that's why we focused on prostate cancer, because at that time there was not much going on health disparities in prostate cancer.
Right.
And and Clark Atlanta University was the space where we wanted to work toward this mission. We are in the neighborhood, we serve the community, we have connections, we can actually talk to them, understand what's going on. So how can we bring your experiences to research? I think this was a natural thing for us to do.
Mhm.
So since then, since we started, we have grown both in terms of the staff and the faculty who performs research. We have grown both in terms of the money that we bring in for research. We have also grown in terms of the impact we have on the national prostate cancer scene, but also more importantly, on the local prostate cancer scene. So for us, there are three missions, and you can slice them and dice them either way you want.
Mhm.
First is to really do an impactful research in prostate cancer, to understand how this disease develops, why it becomes so incurable so fast, right? And how do we develop better treatments, what are the better ways to diagnose it, right? So that is one of the basic fundamental mission we have, and almost all of our faculty is involved in that kind of research.
Mhm.
The second mission is to train our next generation of scientists, right? So we want to give them a platform where we can train them and help them start their research in prostate cancer, and not only in prostate cancer, but in any cancer that has a disparity component attached to it. So that was one of the biggest goal for us. And as you mentioned, 17 students graduated from my lab, but since 2004, we have graduated about 45, 50 students from the cancer center. And it makes me proud to say that each one of them is doing wonderful in their field. They all graduated from here. And the third biggest component is, as I mentioned earlier, was to be part of the community, which we call as community engagement, right? How do we bring the resources to the community? What do we listen from them? What are the experiences? What are the living experiences for the community that we can connect to the research we are doing? One of the fundamental things that I want to do is that whatever research which we do is driven by communities' living experiences. What are they experiencing in the real world? What are they going through? So we have to bridge that gap. I firmly believe that research that we do on the bench should not be isolated. It has to be community driven, and I think that is where my bigger focus is these days. I can't Reggie, I can't listen. I can't hear you.
Right, here we go.
Okay, we are back.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear
Yes, I can. Yes.
me? I knew it was going to be one of these shows
Yes.
for whatever reason. Um, Let me just double check here. Okay. Okay. This- and okay. So can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Good. Good. Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
It's okay. No
You
problem.
know, you wake up in the morning and things start happening. You go, okay,
It's okay. It's
this
going
is
to be
the day.
fine.
So let me ask you about this. Um, from your perspective, what findings are coming out of CCRTD that have the greatest potential, to change how prostate cancer is treated in the future? And I ask that question because I think sometimes when people they see a commercial on TV about a new drug and maybe it's dealing with metastatic prostate cancer um and I think a lot of folks don't understand how that process comes about and where an organization, a center like CCRTD, where do you come in that kind of way of finding the different drugs that people are using and all the way till it being, on the market and its clinical trials and things like that.
Okay, good question. I'll take a minute to explain that process. So most of the drugs, which we call as experimental drugs, are actually discovered in the labs, just like us. Okay, we and remember, every drug has to target something, that is involved in prostate cancer. That something could be a protein, something like that, which is more in prostate cancer or less in prostate cancer. But we have to figure out what the target is that we want to develop a drug, right? So unlike chemotherapeutic drugs like docetaxel, which will kill every other cell. We don't want that. We
Hmm.
want to make sure that we have a targeted strategy that that has a role in prostate cancer, right? That is how we want to work. And the drug industry, drug development business is a $10 billion business for one drug, with about 95% failure rate. And out of about 100 drugs, for example, that we discover, only about 2 to 3% will actually go to the market. And that whole pipeline is about 10 years long. Okay, so it is not that we develop a drug today in the lab, which works very well on mice, and
Right.
then we go to the market, and unfortunately, majority of the drugs that work on the mice don't work on the humans,
Or humans. Right.
right? So it's okay for me to say that we do majority of our drug testing in the mice. So that is kind of where we are good at. We know the targets, we can develop new drugs, we can test them on the mice, but then we have to transition to clinical trials. Then that's where we develop a partnership, and then there are different phases. Phase one trial, just to see whether the drug has any adverse side effect, how much dose can be tolerated. That is the most high risk part of the clinical trial. That is called phase one. Once we figure out that this drug, is probably going to be okay, and it is going to reduce the cancer burden, then that drug goes to phase two, where we start to treat a larger group of people
Population.
with
Yeah.
prostate cancer. Then it goes to stage three, where we involve multiple centers, not just say not that in phase three we don't want to involve only Emory. We want to go to UCSF. We want to go to Fred Hatch. We want to go to New York to cover diverse population, right?
Right.
So we invite patients. We call for patients, specifically those who are suitable to be treated with that drug, right? It's not that every prostate cancer patient, because that drug has a very specific target. We want to select the patients to make sure that we have the right population. And now there is also a big push to include diversity in the population that we treat, right? So it's a big business. It's a multi-billion-dollar business. A lot of time goes into it, but almost everything is done from an academic standpoint. The discovery, and many times all the way to phase three, we will end up partnering with big pharma because they have the money to drive that kind of a research. They have that kind of resources to put in, and
Right.
they're going to make a lot of money also in the process. So that's a pipeline for the drug development. Now, your next question was how are we positioned us? How are we positioned? What are we doing? So almost every lab that we have here has some major component of drug development. Like my lab has a new drug that we are working on. We are targeting a specific population of cells called stem cells, which survive even radiation therapy or chemotherapy. So how to kill those guys, because they are lurking around. They'll come like 2-3 years later and be relapsed, and then be relapsed. Couple of labs working on that, and there is one lab which is working on finding out treatment for how the cancer cells migrate from one organ to another, because that's what cancer does. It's metastatic. So how do you stop metastasis, right? And then there is one lab that really works on how to improve the efficacy of androgen replacement therapy, or ADT. How do we improve that? How to desensitize, how to bring those cells back to sensitivity, which have developed androgen deprivation therapy. And there's another lab that actually says that, I know what all of you guys are doing, but there are thousands of drugs in the market, right? Already, which are FDA approved. I bet some of them can be used to treat prostate cancer,
Ah,
right?
interesting. Is that the
Interesting, right?
therapeutic part of it?
In the therapeutic part of it, because those drugs have been tested, we know the toxicity, and we know what they do. We don't
Right.
have to go to FDA for clearance of the drug, or do or everything. There's a pharma company already manufacturing it. So why don't we start looking at those drugs, right? So they
Hmm.
do a lot of computational analysis. That's where AI comes in, and they just try to figure out how can we repurpose the drug,
Hmm.
right?
Wow.
So there are a lot of ways you can look at it, but I think uh, you can be a big institute, a big university, and you can have a lot of resources to do what you want. But you can be a small school like us, a small center, but be very focused on what you do, right?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
had to maximize on the impact. And then when you bring the community partners with you, they tell us that, this is what the problem is in the community. This is what we really want us to focus on. This is what we are experiencing. So that gives us a leverage. Uh, what do you call a focus on, kind of doing the kind of research that we do. So
Can
that's kind
you
of where our impact is.
yeah, can you give me you said that you go out to the population and see what what is it that
Mhm.
they might want to see. Can you give me an example or give us example rather of how that happens at CCRTD
Yes.
specifically?
So, we have a community engagement arm of the cancer center. But before I even get there, I must say that the cancer center is actually funded. We get a lot of funding from National Institute of Health.
Right.
Okay, so a major part of the community engagement is supported by these funded grants. So and that's kind of where we go, and all the acknowledgement to NIH and MIHD for supporting the kind of research that we do. And of course, we also get a lot of money from private donors and funders and state resources who support the kind of research that we do. The reason I'm saying that is because without their help, these kind of things cannot be done.
Right.
So that is why I wanted to acknowledge that up front. So we go to the community, by getting back to your question, community health organizers, church, and talk to them. Health fairs, we talk to them,
Hmm.
and we disseminate the information on what prostate cancer is. Why is that? Why should be? Why you should be? Going for PSA testing and educate them, and then we have a conversation as to and they open up after these sessions. They open up, I was treated with this and this drug, and this doesn't work.
All right.
But I become resistant, and
Right.
even though I had prostatectomy, I still got metastasis. So that now we are trying to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this is what is happening in the community. This is what their experiences are. How do we address that?
Mm. Right.
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 So that conversation and what they are experiencing becomes a very important metrics and the goal for us to achieve. How do we address these things in the community? I simply don't want to sit in my lab and start thinking as to what's going on in a hypothetical scenario. When I can continue to do my research, but if I can connect my research with what is being
Actually happening.
experienced by
Right.
what is happening, then you make a powerful story. You can actually convince to do the right kind of research. That's what I want to say. The right kind of research, the research that has a direct impact on the communities we serve.
Wonderful. What are you most proud about as far as what has come out of CCRTD? And I know in research, as you mentioned, like 2 or 3% actually kind of go to
Mhm.
actually become a drug. Um, what are you most proud of, and it's successful? And then what is where you thought you were going down the right road, but you kind of hit a dead end, or what was most disappointing? Or is there a time when you say, "Oh wow, I thought we really had something here, and we didn't." And how do you handle that? How do you deal with that? And your
Yeah,
researchers,
I
for
mean,
that
it's
matter.
it's 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 a good question. Science is 99% perspiration on only 1% success. So your question is your question is very valid. And as a scientist, we neither hope nor despair. I mean, this is we just follow the data and then make the right decisions and what to do. Many times we get a dead end and say maybe this is not the right approach.
Right.
Let's start from the ground up, and maybe we don't have enough information to understand the data that we are getting. That's actually a major part of it,
Mm-hmm.
because and like just a few days back, one of my students showed me the data, which I said, well, this is strange. I have never seen this happening. And the reality was that we didn't know how to figure out what's going on,
Mm-hmm.
right? But
Right.
it is the data, it is telling us something which is very, very significant. But now we have to figure it out because the data is not lying, right?
Right.
So
Right.
maybe that's going to start. But the idea is that, so the bigger thing that we have is we are trying, what we now know, how or what are the pathways involved in cancer metastasis.
Hmm.
Okay, that is a that we have a very clear understanding of how that process goes. We have a very clear understanding of how stem cells survive chemotherapy and radiation treatment, and in many cases, the androgen deprivation therapy that we use all the time may actually support the development of these cancer stem cells. Means rather than being helpful, ADT might be, may we have to be very careful when I say that, that ADT
Right.
might be in some cases, in some patients, may not be that effective as we would be for expecting. Right? Let's
Right.
put it that way,
Right.
right? And we have developed major tools to analyze big scale data, large scale data through AI, which can help us drive to make better decisions moving forward, right? And I mean, there is another group that is working on, which I think is pretty big, on every cancer cell has, tens of hundreds of different other cells around it,
Hmm.
which are not cancerous, but they are fueling the growth of the cancer cells,
Hmm.
right? How to figure out why are they fueling the growth of those cancer cells? How can we manage that part, develop drugs or do something that they don't fuel the growth of those cancer cells, right? So those are the
Wow.
major discoveries, and and then the biggest uh, what do you want to call that, the achievement of what we have is
Right.
that we are training the next generation of scientists. I think that
Hmm.
is the part that I love the most, because we want to leave a legacy of what we have done, and have give the torch to the next generation to carry on forward, right? That's exactly what we really want to do,
Right.
you know and failures are numerous. I mean, I don't want to even start telling you what the failures are.
That's all part of being a scientist, right? You got to
It is
deal with the
all
fact.
part of being the scientist, and every day there is some setback that you get, but then you stand up and move on, and that is what science is all about. And I think that is with every other job that you do. Your failures are part of success.
Yeah. Yeah. And a matter of fact, sometimes failure can drive success.
Exactly.
It can, it
That's
can kind of steer you in the direction you need to
Yeah,
go.
yeah, yeah.
Now, you mentioned earlier on about clinical trials, and one of the things, this being Black History Month, I think when we think about history as it pertains to clinical trials, everybody kind of reverts back to that Tuskegee experiment, that infamous syphilis study. In your opinion, because I know a lot of us kind of uh, remember it. I think we're starting to kind of age out of it, but is it still kind of prevalent in how people look at clinical trials? I guess the question is, are we getting better at getting people of color to get involved in clinical trials, or do we still have a ways to go? And what do we do? How do we, if we do?
No, a very good question. And there are a couple of perspectives on it. I think the Tuskegee thing is still on the minds.
Hmm.
That still drives people away from clinical trials, and something like that is very difficult to erase from the memories. Difficult to erase because you lost trust, right? And
Hmm.
to regain the trust and to build that trust is going to take generations. Right? Some of us have moved on.
Hmm.
That was part one. I know I said multiple aspects. So that aspect is that it's going to take multiple generations for us to realize. And the aspect two is actually linked to aspect one, which make things even more complicated, is that we have never reached out to the African American community to participate in clinical trials effectively,
Hmm.
right? That again gives a bad trust, that you don't trust us, right? So that is why are you not coming to our community? right? So there are multiple things that are happening, and that I think that's the bigger issue that we have to address. Why are we not involving our community in the clinical trials? We
Hmm.
talk about community engagement. We want to go to the community and talk about it. It just doesn't happen overnight. It is going to take a lot of time and effort to bring everybody on board. It's a slow process, and I can assure you there are a lot of community engagement activities, events, going on around the country to promote that.
Hmm.
Okay, but if you're expecting the results to happen overnight, that is not going to come. So, for example, NIH has a conscientious push to involve, diversity in clinical trials. That's a big part of it. And I will give you an example.
Hmm.
So, so uh, and don't quote me on this because I read it somewhere. So the in the, uh, there were a lot of clinical trials going on, but more recent clinical trials have shown where you have a good involvement of African American men, that despite having most advanced disease, that is the African American men, when they enroll in the trials, they responded better to the treatments and had better outcomes compared to white patients involved in a similar trial.
Wow.
So that's
Interesting.
actually very positive. So that
Yeah.
means we something is working,
Yeah.
right? Something is working. So that's a very positive, and that positive information needs to be shared. And I think we, as part of the Cancer Center, have a responsibility through our community engagement to share that positive information and encourage participation of African American men in clinical trials.
And so with that being said, it's a slow process, but it seems to me you're saying that we're making progress.
We are
In
making progress,
Yeah.
but I'm a I'm very cautiously optimistic that we don't want to overrun the process. I mean, it's a slow because convincing somebody, making sure that they have confidence
Right.
takes time.
Right.
It is not going to happen overnight, right? And that
Right.
is why all these community engagement networks and organizers are doing. They are developing a relationship so we can convince them to participate in the clinical trials. That doesn't happen overnight.
Right. Yeah. It's going to take time, but again, you've got to be deliberate about
Yes,
it. And it seems to me that at CCRTD, not seems, but because I know of the things
that's
that
what
you
we
all
do.
do, is one of the things
Yeah.
that you're doing. Can you talk a little bit more about your community engagement? Is it local to Atlanta, or are you all expanding out with that?
You know, it is all resource based, Reggie. With the kind of resources we have, we are more focused in Atlanta, neighboring counties,
Hmm.
so that we actually want to develop a good relationship here first. So as we expand our community engagement part, we intend to expand into other underserved communities,
Hmm.
right? So it's a slow process, and it's all resource dependent because every community engagement takes a lot of time,
Right.
to bring it together. But we have a pretty good, strong footprint in Atlanta, at least in the South Fulton County. You know, the county that I really want to expand is Clayton, because Clayton has a very high incidence
Yeah.
of prostate cancer.
Hmm.
All the statistics are not good, so we really want to expand there and have a strong footprint in Clayton County and encourage the men over there to really at least start going to their primary physician, get the PSA. At least the fundamentals should be there.
Right. Right. Well, I will want to. I want to say this, and I've always said this about CCRTD, is that you do have that commitment. You are a, cancer research center, and so a lot of times, as you said, the focus is on the research, the focus is on the lab, and the scientist, and a lot of folk doing what you're doing at CCRTD don't really reach out to the community, and I've always been impressed by the fact that that has been one of those pillars that you mentioned at the
Exactly.
beginning.
Exactly.
And I think that the what we're finding out, as you said, once you do go out, you are also it's like being in a a different kind of laboratory, right?
Exactly. You're so
You have
right. Yep.
feedback. Yeah, you're
Yeah.
getting
Yeah.
feedback
Yeah.
from the community. This
Yeah.
didn't work. I had this issue, and all those bits of information goes towards hopefully getting to the place where it'll put you all out of business at some point, in a sense of uh, leading to my next question about the future. I had the opportunity to interview Dr. T. Ming Chu, I guess widely regarded as the father of the PSA.
Yeah.
And during the interview, he did express that he believed that prostate cancer would be the first cancer to be cured. So, looking ahead 5, 10 years, how do you see CCRTD shaping that future of prostate cancer research and treatment? And do you share that this that we could be getting close to making this thing go away, or at least being able to live with it? I think men are starting to be able to live with it now longer than ever before.
Yeah. So, a good question. So my expectation would be that we would have enough or better treatments that we can live longer. Okay.
Hmm.
That's kind of where I have a very measured expectation from what we do. Can we fully treat prostate cancer? Yes and no. If diagnosed early, then we have better chances. But if diagnosed much later, then we really don't have a whole lot of
Right.
choices. And that's where the research should focus, and that's what where we are focusing. But I'll in 10 years from now, I think we should be making significant progress in in having African American men more and more to at least do PSA, so we can get it early, right?
Right.
It is Reggie. It is not a question of how effective the treatment would be or where the research is going. It is how early we can catch it, so we can really have an effective treatment to treat it, right?
Hmm.
I mean, I'll just give you the number, and I really wanted to share with the community.
Hmm.
So when PSA screening started, right, it resulted in overall 50% decrease in mortality. Means we have 50% less people dying of
Right.
prostate cancer after PSA. And if for any chance, if all PSA screening were to be suspended by NIH and say, in the US, NIH says we don't need PSA, just
Right.
get rid of it, okay? And after 10 years, we would have lost additional almost 30,000 men from prostate cancer, right?
Mm.
And these numbers tell you a whole lot. That means we are already there if we do our part.
Mm.
Does it make sense?
Right.
Right. So I think that is why I was saying I'm very cautiously optimistic, and we need to do our part. We are doing our part for developing new strategies for treatment, but that is one of the major activities that we do in the community. How can we encourage them to go do a PSA testing?
Hmm.
Right? Many times I go, when I talk to the people, folks out there, they don't even know where the prostate is. You talk to them for 1 hour
Yeah.
and they come to you and say, like, what are you talking about?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Right. Yeah.
So,
Even
so
today, that's right.
yeah. So, I think I look at that from not only from the science perspective, I look at that from the science perspective, from engagement perspective, from the communities that we serve. We all have to come together. It is a collective effort from all sides, right?
Hmm.
So we have to really not be focused only on one thing, but it is going to come together. Just like breast cancer, there is so much of awareness for breast cancer.
Yeah.
If I tell you this number, the incidence of breast cancer and mortality with breast cancer is exactly almost the same as prostate,
Hmm. I did not know that.
right?
Wow. Yeah.
But you go out, your Komen foundations and the pink ribbons, and so much of awareness. It is unbelievable. We
Hmm.
can't match it,
Right. Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
they are so much aware. I mean, but we have to get there. It is somehow we have to educate men to be there, and that is a collective effort. That
And
is
as
part
you,
of the treatment,
yeah,
Raji,
yeah,
to wrap up the
exactly.
whole, to make the circle full.
Right, right. And so, that being said, what would you say to someone, a man right now listening, watching this, and maybe hesitant when it comes to prostate cancer diagnosis, may not want to even deal with it, or may not even know what their PSA is? What message do you want to leave with them today?
So if they don't know what PSA, or they don't want to deal with it, my message is simple. If you have high PSA, or if you have prostate cancer, you will have to deal with it. Whether you want to deal with it early and treat yourself, or you want to deal with it later when you have reached a point of no return. The decision is yours, right? That is that, and that is a shocking statement to give, but that is the real statement. I'm not mincing my words. uh, they need to get to their primary physician, or they come to cancer center, talk to us, right? Reach out to the cancer center. We will convince them to get a PSA testing done. We will explain it. Maybe we were not able to capture you in any one of our community engagement, but that is why we are in the community. That is why,
Exactly.
that is exactly why we are there, right? So we talk to us, and we can have an open session, and talk about it. But you must go to your primary physician. And if you're an African American, I recommend that if you are at 42, 45 years of age, that's probably when you want to first start talking to your doctor to have a PSA test. And you can tell them that, what, I'm African American man. I mean, I have and I have, I'm a high risk person. And in this population, the cancer starts pretty early. So I would request a PSA test. They
Hmm.
can't deny you. Nobody can deny that.
Right.
When it's for your own health, it's preventive. So I think those are the things. So let's talk. Let's have a conversation.
All right. And how can communities and families and organizations support the kind of work that you all are doing at CCRTD?
You know, the families support what we do. Engagement is one part, and they do. Uh, we do a lot of fun things with them. We can try to engage with them. They come to our events. One is a financial commitment, that they give money for us to support the cancer research. They give us, donations to support the community engagement events. So there are a lot of ways people can help us out, because every cent, every dollar counts. I can't say cents now,
Right.
because
Yeah.
every dollar counts.
Spoken
And
like a true executive director.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
science is expensive. Everything that you do, the it is we also want to tell our funding agencies that our community is involved in addressing this issue.
Hmm.
That's a very strong message, right? We want to tell our institution that our community is involved in it. So I think participation without fund giving money is as good as participation by giving money. That takes us a long way to support what we do.
Wonderful. And we'll also have a link in the show notes for both the YouTube version and the audio version, which will be edited so that the little issue I had with my microphone won't be there. But we'll have that available in those show notes as well, so that someone can, get in contact with you all, support you financially or to volunteer. And I just thank you, Dr. Chaudhary, for being here. Um, I'm honored to. This is the first time we've actually met. I've known your predecessor, I guess, for
Yes.
a long time, Dr. Khan,
Yeah.
and just real excited about the work that you all are doing. And I knew about CCRTD before I was diagnosed, before I got into the advocacy
Mm,
part
mm,
of it. And I always say that Dr. Khan was the reason for my selecting my treatment after we had a conversation. and he gave me some very valuable words of wisdom, and I was like, that makes a lot of sense. So, and it has come, and I'll tell you right quick. I was in his office, and I asked him. I said, "Well, Dr. Khan, if you had prostate cancer, you're a researcher. You're close to this. What would you do?" And he said, "You know what? I would. Oh, excuse me." He said, "I would have it removed." He
Yeah,
said
that's exactly
because
what I would say.
yeah, he said because if something happens later on, you have radiation. There are other options that you probably would be a little bit more difficult if you did radiation and stuff, which people select on the front end. And for me, that made a lot of sense because, to be honest with you, having it removed was at the bottom of my list. So
It should be the top on your list.
it was at the top, and I was relatively young. I mean, I was in my early 50s at the time, and fast forward 12 years later, about a year ago, I had a chemical reoccurrence
Mm.
after 12 years, and I had um, proton therapy available to me because I, had not had radiation before. And I'm happy to report that my last PSA, which was about a week ago, was non-detectable. So
Oh my God, that's so good.
yeah,
Reggie, I had a doctor's appointment today for something. So I go to the doctor, and he asked me what I do. I told him, and then he breaks down. He said, "Oh, I have prostate cancer," and the doc starts telling me what I said. You're a doctor. I mean, like, why don't you go to prostatectomy first?
right,
He said, I did, but it has come back and it has metastasized. So I have to do some homework to help him out too.
yeah,
So I'm going to help him out as much as I can to figure out any clinical trials that he can participate. So,
yeah,
we have to make some right decisions. And that is the message we have to send to our community, Reggie. This
yeah.
is collective between me and you. We have to take care of everybody.
Yeah, and I think the word you said was community,
Hmm.
and you're talking to your doctor and Dr. Khan talking to me, and the many conversations that are being had through CCRTD's community engagement, and then what we're trying to do here with If You Are My Brothers. I think as I get more and more into this, it really is about community and getting the word out, and we'll have some successes, we'll have some failures, and
Yes.
not to be disappointed.
Not to be
And
disappointed.
yeah,
Yeah.
just like some of the challenges we had today trying to get you here, not on your end, but on our end. But we had a very great conversation, and I think that this particular episode will really move some folk into understand the processes and the things that are going on that we just kind of take for granted sometimes. That
Yeah.
you all are working very, very hard
Thank you.
to help us and get
And
men through this journey called prostate
and
cancer.
Reggie, thank you for inviting me on this, and thank you for sharing experiences, because again, it is a collective effort. We both
Yes,
and others have to make a difference.
absolutely. And we're going to have you back on, and maybe some of these new and young minds that you all are shaping there at the center.
Absolutely.
Would love to get some of the young folk
Well,
on.
it'll be an honor to come here and talk all about it.
All right, great. Dr. Chaudhary, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. And we thank you for your leadership, for your vision, and for the groundbreaking work that's happening at Clark Atlanta University and the Center for Cancer Research and Therapeutic Development. It's a mouthful,
Reggie,
but it's CCRTD.
yes. So Reggie, thank you very much for inviting. And before I step out, I really want to thank all my faculty and staff and students,
Absolutely.
without whom this center is not going to move an inch forward. It is all of their effort, all of their hard work, and that's why we are here. So, with deep respect and gratitude to
Thank you so
all
much.
my community members, all the community partners, and the CCRTD staff and faculty. They are the ones that make us do what we do.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Chaudhary. We appreciate it. And during Black History Month, it's important to highlight institutions like CCRTD and the leaders that are shaping the future of cancer research and health equity. If this conversation helped you, we ask you to share it with a brother, father, son, friend. This is all about the community as we talked about earlier. You can visit us at ifyouaremybrothers.org to learn more about our documentary, our podcast series, and the all important community engagement work. Now, we want to remind you that If You Are My Brothers is a 501c3 project of Straight Street Media, and it's dedicated to turning prostate cancer awareness into health action. That's the thing that we like to say around here, health action. And you can support us in a number of different ways. You can see that. Thank you, Danny, on the screen. All the many ways you can support us, from going to the website to using the old snail mail and sending a check. And we do appreciate your contributions. When you do make that contribution, you will receive your very own If You Are My Brothers commemorative mug. There it is. Thank you, Danny. Going full screen there on me. Huh? And I use this mug on every episode with my tea. And folks, I've gotten some calls of what is actually in that. It's just tea. I guarantee, guarantee you. But you get a mug, and that's just our way of saying thank you for helping us out. And we also want to thank the folks at Atlanta Brand Central for providing the new mugs, for donating them for this project. Now, during our year-end campaign, many of you were entered into our very special drawing to win an original painting inspired by the If You Are My Brothers logo. Now, the painting is aptly titled The Brotherhood of Man, and it was titled by its creator, renowned artist Cecil Bernard. Now, we held the drawing last week live on YouTube, and you can check it out right here on our YouTube channel. And we'd like to congratulate our winner, Tanya L. of Houston, Texas, for being the winner of the one of a kind. You can see it there in the background. This is an original painting, and please visit Cecil Bernard. You can look him up. He's also in our show notes, his website, and all of our show notes, and check out some of his great work. And we want to thank Tanya L. of Houston for being the winner, and thank you all for making a contribution during our year-end campaign. We raised our goal. We had a challenge grant, and we were able to get that challenge grant because you and other folk that think this is important enough for financial support made the commitment. So we want to thank you. Now, a reminder, the audio version of this episode will be available next Wednesday, February 8th, on all of the major podcast platforms, Apple, Spotify, you know them all. There for you to listen, like, and please share. It's so important. And as you listen and watch, we have various episodes. Today, we're dealing with research at an HBCU at Clark Atlanta University and CCRTD. We also have a number of treatment options. We talk to doctors, we talk to survivors. We're going to be cataloging those by subject so that as we continue to do these, you'll be able to go in and maybe check out proton therapy, or maybe you're looking at having a prostatectomy, whatever, treatment options. We'll have folk on to talk about it, and also survivors to talk about it as well. We want to say a special thank you to our producer, Daniel Danny Garcia Pozo, who is probably pulling his hair out from this episode with all the issues. Not on you, Danny, definitely on me. And also for Zach Reynolds at Borkhouse Productions for our opening. Thank you, Zach, so much for helping us out. Remember, this podcast is not a replacement for your medical advice. Always refer to your healthcare provider, your healthcare team for that. And we also want to remind you and encourage you to tune in to our next episode on Thursday, February 26th, at 7 p.m. right here on this YouTube channel, as we continue our Black History Month series. And we'll take a look at the history of clinical trials and their impact on communities of color. We're going to kind of take up where we left off with our discussion this evening. So until next time, remember, if you are my brothers, please share this message. So take care, stay healthy, peace.